Hello and welcome to Impact Africa, our online talk show where we get to have conversations with diverse people and organizations who are impacting lives positively. Yes, my name is Dr. Kemi Akiode Adebayo, also known as Dr. Mama K. In today's program, as we continue to celebrate the month of Africa, which is Africa Day, recognized by the Africa Organization Union, which is normally on the 25th of May. And we're going to feature 5 inspirational Africans from 5, well, we cheated a little bit. They're not really from 5 different countries because we're, recording from South Africa. So we have 2 people from South Africa and 1 person from Cameroon and 1 person as well from Nigeria, and our amazing last person from Zambia. We'll be right back. So we're going to feature first an amazing selfless leader, my dear friend Clifford Martinus, popularly known as Cliffy. He is the founder of Oasis Reach for your dreams based in Cape Town. They do a lot of work in the disadvantaged community using sport, as a platform, especially football. So I was asking Cliffy how and what happened to him and how he became a born again. Enjoy.
Naughty. So when moving to Mitchell's Plain and Lentegeur, Mitchell's Plain, and that's where I think I became more involved with wrongful activity. And so
was that due to peer influence, or you just wanted to try? Okay.
Definitely friends and all of those things.
Right.
We in these schools where we in classrooms of 40 to 45 learners. It was during the time of the riots of 1985. And it just all of those things that just added, that led to me doing my wrongful things on the street corners. Used to gamble quite often. I was very good. I always tell people I was very good at gambling.
Okay.
Rolling the die and those things. But the one thing, and that's why I always talk about it today still, I could never understand that I was in school at grade or standard 9, I failed. And after a teacher spoke to me, because I went looking for work at the fire station in Epping, didn't get any joy. But I
after
think
you failed
after
the
I failed,
grade 9.
I was not done.
Okay.
I was done. And then us as guys used to then, even though we're not at school, we used to then just roam the school grounds and stuff like that. Not knowing that a teacher, I can't remember the name, but a teacher said, why don't I try it again? And so I did. And so I passed that year, my standard 9, and straight passed with my matric. And in those periods was actually, that period was I think it was very critical for me, because being 16, 17, and then I started, our street corners used to be where all of us used to hang out. I didn't do drugs, I didn't drink, but I just was
gambling.
I was just a good, I was good. And then, but the friends did. The friends smoked. The friends did all of those things. And then they built a church on the field where we used to play our little sports, just right around the corner.
Right.
And our group was starting to be guys of helping to dig trenches with the church people, not knowing we started getting invited to church. And then we started going to this youth. And out of the lot of us that used to go and look around, it was me and 2 or 3 others that stayed and carried on until eventually it was just me in youth and attending the church. And so became a regular attending of church youth, and eventually also got to a point where at one stage I also got saved. And I think that's where everything started connecting. Crazy. So I started what they call, I was in born again, and I spoke to some of my friends, and I had new friends in the church youth. It was just a new journey, but it became even bigger, because then a close friend of mine, who's Ricky, who's still with the YMCA, Ricky started inviting me to go to attend the Youth for Christ movement
Okay,
initiatives.
okay.
And then we went to do voluntary work with the street children, and I used to go after school in the evenings when he goes, or I worked at a factory after school. I didn't go and study. I worked at the factory in Maitland, and straight from Maitland I used to then go to town and work with the street children and go and volunteer at the shelters, not knowing that everything was coming together.
Wow, I hope you enjoyed listening to myself and Cliffy. Our next inspirational African is a dear friend and sister. We call ourselves AWEC Sister, African Women Entrepreneurs Cooperative, Cohort 5, Marcelline Moukoko, and she is the founder MD for Mawe, which is based in Cameroon. They do a lot of work in yoga, and I was asking Marcelline about Cameroon culture. Enjoy. Before we go into your profession career, tell us about life growing up in Cameroon. I know you said you're from the French part. Which part specifically? Just tell us anything, your culture, your food, landscape there, so that people will just know about Cameroon.
Food. Cameroon is the best place in Africa for food. We have everything that you can ever dream about. Egusi, whatever you think about, we have it all. We're really a very diverse country of more than 200 tribes. And from my father and my mother's side, I'm from extremely different tribes. One is very in the grass field, and from my father's side is really the coastal area. So it's really a blend. And we really have people like the people from the north that are mostly Muslims. We have people like from the Anglophone sector. Part of them are from the grass field and the other are the coastal. So we have like the ocean, the falls, waterfalls, and the beaches. Like, it's really very diverse. We usually call Cameroon Africa in shortscape, so we're really diverse. We have a Muslim, we have Catholic, we have Protestants, and we really just blend into each other. It's fun, yeah.
And population, roughly your population is what size, roughly?
We should be around something like 27 million right now, probably almost that. Yeah. Right. And I'm actually in the most populated town, Douala.
Right. So how was life growing up for you?
Well, it was very, let's say like that, because I was born in another country, then I grew up with my grandmother in a very small town. And there, like, everybody knew everyone. So it was kind of very French based also. Then at a certain point, I started living with my parents, and it was in a bigger town, and I had much more friends. It was less hot because the town where I was before was very hot. It was very fun, less hot, but then I had to adapt because it's in primary school that I started learning English. So it was kind of a little difficult transition of a few months. Then after I went into the Anglophone sector, and then I went to boarding school in really the Anglophone part of the town. It was very different. People were more, much more into traditions, speaking pidgin English. It was really very different. And after I came back to Douala, where I started engineering, and it was another clash because I spent like 10 years studying in English, and I had to come back to French and to another educational system. So, but it was still very fun, especially when I transitioned from not having hair to relaxed hair to natural hair.
Wow, I need to get into yoga, huh? Okay, our next inspirational speaker, well-known worldwide, well sought out speaker all over, is an expert when it comes to international oil and gas issue. My brother from Nigeria when I say brother, you know what I mean. It's not my blood brother, but as you know me, everybody's my brother and sister. So Dr. Babatunde Omotowa, he's an international oil and gas expert that has worked across many multinationals all over Africa and the UK as well, and in Europe as well. So I was asking him about his name. Enjoy.
For coming. So let's start first with your name. Babatunde, I know it seems to be a popular name. Tell us a little bit about what it means and where you come from in Nigeria and life growing up.
Thank you very much. Babatunde, it's a native Yoruba name. Yoruba is the language spoken by people from the western part of Nigeria and also other parts of West Africa, even up to Brazil. In Babatunde itself means that a man, a father has come back, really. It's supposed to be like a reincarnation, which usually is given to a child born after the passing away of some male figure in the family. In my own case, it was my maternal grandfather that I was born after. So that's why I'm called Babatunde. It's a landmark and a way of remembering when a child was born in the olden days.
And do you have his characteristics? Has anybody told you?
I don't know.
You don't
exactly.
know. Okay, you haven't asked that deep.
All I know is that I was also very close to my mother, and I can imagine part of that may have been the result of that as well.
So she probably called you Babami or which is father.
Definitely, so, we had such a bond.
Right. So you use Babs for short, which is a name that you've used for a long time. So tell us where you're from exactly in Nigeria then.
So I'm actually from a village called Okorogbede. It's in current Kogi State. It's in the middle belt of Nigeria, not too far from the confluence city of Nigeria, where River Niger and Benue meet in Lokoja. So that's where I come from. But there's a Yoruba-speaking part of that region that I come from.
So I'm sure you have a different kind of dialect, even though it's Yoruba-speaking. It's probably not, it's a different kind of Yoruba, like the Egbas have, the Jebus. What would be your one from Kogi?
So we're called the Okun people. Okay.
Ah, Okun, okay. Right, so you're an Okun people. How do you greet again?
Well, it depends on who you are greeting. It could be anything from Ekwe, Ekun, so it depends on who you are greeting. Okay.
So Ekun is for somebody senior or younger?
Ekun is for somebody. So if you use E, it means the person is senior. If you use O, it means the person is junior. And then depends on what you want to say. Ekason, so those sort of things.
All right. So tell us life growing up and your educational background in Nigeria as well. I'm assuming you did school in Nigeria?
Indeed. So I grew up initially in the middle belt of Nigeria. So I was born in Okene, which is also in that axis of Kogi State. Did a lot of my education in that sort of middle belt of Nigeria. So started primary school in Okene, then went to Ilorin, where I did my secondary school, Federal Government College, Ilorin. And then from there, I went to the university in Ilorin as well, where I had a first degree in industrial chemistry and a master's degree in business admin. So most of my schooling at the initial stage, I would say, was in that region. But of course, education for me is a continuous learning. So subsequently, I had another master's degree from University of Leicester in the UK. And I'm currently still a student, still studying with a doctorate degree here in the Edinburgh College of Business as well.
All right. Is that on a doctorate in business again?
So it's a doctorate specializing now in ESG, environment, social and governance, which of course is quite topical in the world and will define, I think, a lot of things to come in the future, especially around sustainability, good social and good governance in the world.
Wow. Well, for those who don't know, I enjoyed that conversation, especially about the name Babatunde, which, like Dr. Babs was explaining, is given to a male child after a father or grandfather has passed away. So, our next inspirational speaker, African inspirational speaker from Zambia, my dear AWEC sister. Yes, I'm cheating. African Women Entrepreneur Cooperative Cohort 5. You guys rock. Love you all. And she is Kunda Wami. She is from Zambia, and she is the founder, CEO of Little Sweethearts. And she does so much amazing things. Well, enjoy our conversation.
Okay, thank you for the great opportunity. It's a great honor to be on your program. Thank you.
You're most well. Let's start first by your name, Wami Kunda. I know it's Kunda Wami, and you told me you preferred Wami. What does it mean? And tell us a little bit about where you're from, your journey growing up, and family education. Just share with us.
Great. Okay, so my first name is Kunda. I was named after my father's mother. Funny enough, my mom's the one that picked the name and not my dad, so it wasn't really imposed on her. Out of her love for her mother-in-law, she named me Kunda. But my dad personally named me Wami because it means mine. So in our tribe, which is Kaonde, Wami Bunke means mine alone. So I'm the only girl in my family, and I've got 3 brothers, and then there's my mom and my dad. And so yes, so this only girl, daddy's girl, daddy's
I can imagine
favorite. My
Wami.
brothers are going to kill me, but yes.
So what was your husband
Here comes
saying?
the name Wami.
So what was your husband saying? You're mine for your dad, daddy's girl, but you're still his, I bet, with your husband, I guess.
Yes, and now my husband has personalized the Wami. Whenever he refers to me, we have people around, he calls me Wami. When it's the 2 of us or we're just having any normal conversation, I'm Kunda. So I'm like, okay, why the difference? He says, no, when I introduced her, and I said, she's Wami. I'm basically saying she's mine. Hands off, back off.
So tell us about life in Zambia. How is life in Zambia? Growing up with, only girl, 3 brothers. How was life in Zambia? What's Zambian culture like?
Okay, I come from a family that's not so big on culture, like the traditional culture, but we do have respect for our culture in terms of respect for older people. So growing up, I had a very lovely childhood. My dad has always held some high positions when it comes to employment, so I wouldn't say I ever lacked for anything growing up. As my mom has always mentioned, I'm the child who was born with a golden spoon in her mouth. We lived on the Copperbelt province. I was born on the Copperbelt province in Chilabombwe. My dad was a civil engineer by profession, so immediately he came from university. He was a senior staff. That's what they used to call them. So he entered in senior management. Kids who I used to hang around would always use this very offensive term, Mbemba it's Kochinondo, which kind of means rich kid. Because I had the dolls, I had the tea sets, and at 3, I had a dollhouse. My dad went to do his master's in the UK, and when he came back, he came with this real dollhouse. The lights would go on. And it wasn't common because the district of the town more in Chilabombwe was a very small town. It's near Congo, Kasumbalesa border there. So it's not a glamorous or upbuilt town, but now there's been a lot of improvement. So you can imagine, here's this little girl who has this dollhouse that people have never seen, and her brother has boxes of toys. Wow. And whenever the kids would come to visit us, my brother would be dishing out toys. So we grew up with this thing over our heads. These are the rich kids. Of course, there were other people who were much more wealthier than my parents, but my mom has always had a taste for good things. She loves a good life, and that's what we had. My young brother also really just kind of fits into what he found. So that was life. And then we moved to the capital city. So from this mining town, we came to the capital city. Big change. You can imagine we're coming from this small mining town into this big city, city life. I think it was my first time seeing a flyover bridge when I was 5. And so a lot of things would shock me. I'm like, oh, okay, what's that? But I went to private schools. I started at a private school. I went to private schools all through my life and got a very good education. I started my preschool at Rodspat Schools here in Lusaka. Right now, it's one of the most renowned private schools, quite costly. And then when my dad in Northwestern Province, and this is probably where my journey as an entrepreneur comes from. My dad was 36 years old when he became the managing director of Northwestern Water and Storage Company. This company, he was just given the memorandum of understanding. He was just given the papers, and he had to start up the entire company, put in all the procedures, how they're going to do it. It was the first time Northwestern Province was going to have a water utility company there. And he really did a great job. The organization is still in existence. This is the 22nd year. Although my father was only managing director or chief executive officer for 20 years. But it's still there. Everything he had set up is still being used. The plants, the water plants. For a number of years, my dad always won a top chief executive officer, best performing water utility. There was a time he won it 3 times in a row. And so having such a hard-working father really instilled in us as children to work hard, particularly me, because I'm very close to my dad. And then my mom on the other side has always done business. She was a cross-border business lady. And so I've had this
influence of business in your life. But
in me. Yes.
But mostly daddy's girl, I can see, from what you're saying.
So you see how cultures are really similar when you look at it. So Kunda was named after her father's mother, like Dr. Babs, who was named because his grandfather had passed away. So I hope you really enjoyed hearing Kunda's story. And check out Little Sweetheart, has a lot of place to go. She's an innovator, creative, educator. I could go on and on. I'm being partial, right? Okay, last but not the least, this is my dear, dear, dear sister. Sister, yes, she's my sister, Mrs. Ilse Marteens, and she's the branch manager for MES Cape Town. I've known Ilse for a while, and she's just doing amazing things. She's one of our directors as well as at Bold Moves. And I was asking Ilse about some of the challenges for her, although this was recorded a while back. And the MES Cape Town is doing so much. They've really grown. So we really need to revisit to have another conversation with Ilse. Enjoy. So I think what I'm going to ask you before we go into a break, just to show some of your work, is what are some of the challenges, for you? I know you've touched on it there when you said you don't even know, where the salary, comes at some time. What are some of the other challenges, for you through your work, what you're doing, either personally or an organization?
Sure. I think I'm going to answer you on 3 levels. operationally, tactically, and strategically.
Right.
So operationally, it is always the lack of resources. Tactically, it is about having the right people in the right positions. Strategically, it's about true impact does not rely just on one organization.
Correct.
True impact in terms of changing the heart of the city as we believe, or just changing the world into a better place. It needs integration of state, church and business, or state, civil society and business. And operationalizing cooperation. It is a challenge. And it's brilliant when it works. It is the more difficult route, because you have to consider other people, you can't just do your own thing. And it's all about relationships. And it is also about being vulnerable and admitting when you can't do everything, and admitting when you need others. And it is also about being brave when you fail, to try again, and to fail, and to try again, and not to give up. So I think those are the main challenges.
That's a lot. I know I said we're going to stop, but I want to wrap, for this break to show some of your work. I want to not forget this bit. So how have you, as an individual or as an organization, managed to go, navigate through that operational, lack of resources or strategic? How have you managed to do that? I know it's a big question. However, just, how?
I think it is to have, number one, be very clear on what your vision is.
Right.
Because you never shape your vision to speak to your reality. You always change your reality to keep to your vision. So that is very important, to have that very clear in mind. And that's why I also don't like the term non-profits. If I can steal a leaflet out of the book of Simon Sinek, he said, we don't define yourself in terms of what you are not. We are not profitable. We are non-profit. So don't define yourself like that. Define on what you are doing. And we are for impact organizations. We concentrate on the impact that we make. So having that very clear vision in terms of what is the impact that we are doing, and to make that thing come true the whole time. So not taking off your eye off the prize, and to work systematically. In other words, we have a very clear model that we work from. Intake, intervention, exit, because we said we work holistically with people. We don't do one size fits all. Every person's plan is unique, because every person is unique. But you have to break what you want to do up into what are we doing when we engage with people? What happens? What type of interventions are there? And then how do we exit people? And that same model we take to our partners to say, well, if we want to affect change within a certain geographical area, how do we engage? What do we do together? And how do we make sure that we sustain any change? In other words, the exit that we plan. That the partnerships can continue.
Wow. I salute you all. I see you all. Our 5 selected inspirational Africans, there are more and more of them. This is just part 1. We normally feature more in the coming year. So we continue to celebrate Africa Day, and all these 5 young men and women, I call everybody young by the way, even though some of us are seniors. So they're doing so much work selflessly with integrity, hard work. They're so dedicated to their work, and they are creative. They love people and they love God as well. That was a common thread as well for 5 of them. So with people like them and people like you, I believe we can do a lot more for Africa. So this is Dr. Mama K signing off, saying till next time, stay safe, stay blessed, and we're still celebrating Africa Month in May. God bless.